Good morning, and thank you all so much for joining the Houston Minority Supplier Development Council's LEAD Conversations. We are excited this morning to have you all with us. We thank you again for joining us and being a part of this. This town hall is a part of our LEAD Conversations, where we commit to leadership, education, and development. Today, we have a robust group of participants, and they will discuss developing resources and available financing for minority business enterprises. A couple of housekeeping notes. All attendees have been muted. So if you have questions, we ask that you type them in the chat box, and our Vice President of Operations, Ms. Constance Jones, will respond to you live and in a timely fashion. So again, you have been muted. Please keep them muted until you are speaking. I first want to introduce our first guest, Mr. Archie Meyer. He has worked in the oil and gas industry for ExxonMobil for over 30 years. He is an executive, a husband, a father, and chairman of the Houston Minority Supplier Development Council's Board of Directors. I present to you our chairman, Mr. Archie Meyer. Mr. Meyer.
All right, Marcia, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
You're welcome.
And good morning, everyone. On behalf of the HMSD Board of Directors, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know we understand this is a challenging environment for business today, but as the Lord says, this too shall pass, and we'll pray that certainly happens. As you know, the Board of Directors are actively engaged in making sure that HMSDC remains financially viable and operational organization to support the needs of both our corporate members and our MBEs. To achieve this goal, we certainly will need continued support from both corporate members and MBEs. And this is the time that we need to join together and invest more in each other by actively participating in HMSDC. So we're an organization of resilient businesses who have proven time and again that we choose to rise up rather than give up. And that being said, we know that all MBEs are drivers of our economy. HMSDC has and will continue to share information on federal, state, and local efforts to support MBEs. And we're happy to share an update on part 2 of the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, which I'm sure everyone's heard about. And NMSDC has been lobbying in Washington, D.C. for a dedicated pool of money for minority and women-owned businesses as part of Part 2. And currently, $60 billion of the additional $310 billion, which should be approved by Congress on Wednesday, will be dedicated to assist minority and women business enterprises. So at the state level, Governor Abbott has announced the formation of a statewide strike force, which includes business leaders and medical experts to develop a plan to reopen Texas. Of course, the health experts will develop a medical architecture to comprehensively test and trace COVID-19 and to begin the process of gradually and safely returning employees to work. Business leaders will provide innovative ideas to help businesses strategically reopen while containing the spread of COVID-19, and we all will focus on devising strategies, statewide standards, and appropriate timeframes to reopen Texas. With that in mind, businesses will be allowed to reopen in stages. And those businesses that allowed to come open first, hopefully will pose no threat or minimal threat to spreading of the virus, and we all need to be working in that regard. This Friday, Governor Abbott is scheduled to make another announcement on what type of businesses can reopen and set the standards and practices for them to follow. And we'll look forward to that and also our local information. So finally, some things to reflect on. Controlling your destiny. So this is a time where businesses will need to, make plans for how to position your businesses for continuity, sustainability, and growth post COVID-19, and keeping in mind that will prevent its own challenges. But where do you excel? What can you do differently? And then how do you ensure relevancy and need for your products and services? By asking those hard questions, you can begin to plan your work and work your plan. So we encourage you to use HMSDC to help you develop your plan for businesses post-COVID-19. We'll have valuable information that we'll disseminate through webinars and virtual meetings like this. And be sure to take the time to attend those, like the upcoming Transportation Business Opportunity Conference, and register to participate in departmental programs that will kick off in June. But then we want to recognize that you all are heroes too. You know, we come to truly appreciate the essential workers and those healthcare providers that are on the front lines, keeping us all safe. And remember that your businesses are important and you are heroes too. So when the economy opens, it is you that we'll be counting on to employ our friends and family members. You know, as you know, 47% of employees in this country are employed by small businesses, and that certainly makes you heroes in my mind. And on behalf of the board of directors, we look forward to you all being heroes in phase 2 of this global pandemic. So we hope you enjoy today's proceedings and look forward to your feedback and your continued support of HMSDC. So thank you, and I guess I'll turn it over to Ingrid.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We do appreciate, thank you so much. We do appreciate that those invaluable remarks. We now have with us Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He serves as the Commissioner for Harris County Precinct 1, and he's a passionate public servant. We want to welcome Mr. Commissioner Rodney Ellis.
How are you? I think you can see me, but tell me if you can't. You know, this technology is new to me. I'm a little old school.
Yes, I can see you.
So, hey, it shows you how dumb I am. I pushed some button and now I'm looking at the agenda instead of looking at you all, but I did see earlier. Look, I want to thank the Houston Minority Supplier Development Council for the work that you do. Ingrid and all of your guests, particularly Clifton Clark, who helps me with this technology, helped me set this thing up. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I just want to tell you how excited I am that at Harris County we could step up in a small way. I mean, the $10 million that the county put up obviously is nothing compared to that massive payroll protection program from the federal government and the second tranche that they're going to do. I haven't seen the latest data. Maybe you have, Ingrid. I did ask for it from Sasha on my staff before this call to see how many people made it into the deadline to apply. I know they're reviewing applications. I'm hopeful that a good number of those will be minority and women-owned businesses. I hope a lot of them will be the smaller businesses who will make the cut and qualify. 10 million is not a lot. It does have the possibility of being a forgivable loan. But look, it's a deep hole that we dug. It's going to take us a good while to get out of it. Really, our federal partners are who we're going to go to for most of the help. That's simply where the resources will have to come from. But, you know, my fear is a lot of businesses won't make it. But we need to do as much as we can because those small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Ingrid, I want to thank you for your work when it was tough, by the way, to come down to Commissioner's Court and advocate that we do a disparity study. So long before coronavirus showed up, before COVID was an issue, we already had a lot of small businesses that were suffering from another virus, that historical virus of discrimination, of neglect, of not having access to capital. And the county normally spends about $5 billion a year, did not have a MWBE program. We didn't even collect the data. And it was tough, but you were one of those voices who were willing to come down here and not start mumbling over your words, say we ought to do the disparity study. So hopefully it will show if we can justify a race and gender-based program. Now, that study has been done. It should be completed probably the next week or so, may be completed now. She can't share it with me until Colette Holt shares it with the county. Hopefully we're going to be in a real meeting, not a virtual meeting sometime soon. But if not by virtual meeting, she'll present her results. I hope it's going to say that we can have a race and gender-based program. I hope we'll learn from lessons at the city, figure out how to make certification easy, maybe do it through you all, maybe do it through the city. We ought to pool resources to see if we can come up with some kind of comprehensive small business bonding program. After you and I helped on that effort to light the spark, so to speak, to go get a disparity study for the county. Then, as you recall, with a lot of your members, we decided we ought to go and raise the issue with Metro, who's going to spend about $7 billion as well. And we ought to raise that issue with the port. And I'm glad to say all three now are doing disparity studies. That's a big deal. And it was not easy to do. And your members and under your leadership, Ingrid, y'all got out there and made the point. I think it'll probably take the port, I don't know, about another 8-9 months, something like at least 6. Metro about the same amount of time. You got the 3 top firms in the country that do these disparity studies, minority-owned firms. Colette Holt, got Rodney Strong, you have Dr. Ramsey doing one of them as well. And that's interesting. All of these folks who compete against one another are separately doing studies. But look, we need to get on that when it happens. You're going to have a massive amount of money. It won't nearly be enough. You're going to have whatever the federal government puts out because of this disaster. You're going to have the money that comes out as a result of the last disaster, Harvey, all those federal funds coming down. And then you have Metro doing an unprecedented expansion program, and the county with that $2.5 billion that we're going to spend over several years. So it's a good opportunity for a lot of folks to get into business, to merge businesses, and I'm here to help in any way that I can. And with that, Ingrid, I'm going to take a couple of questions, and if I figure out, if your technology person tells me how to pop you all back up on the screen so I can see you, I'm just afraid to hit a button. I may mess something up. But I'll be more than happy to try to take some questions. Now, please tell me you all are there, Ingrid.
Yes, we are here, Commissioner. And our audience, we want to let you know that Commissioner Ellis has to leave shortly. So please type your questions in our chat box, and Constance Jones will ask those questions. So again, audience, please type any questions you have for Commissioner Ellis in the chat box, and we will get those answered for you right away as the commissioner has to leave us shortly.
And even after I leave, if there are questions that I need to answer, you know, we'll do it. Now, I sure would like to hit this X button that says my email and inbox Outlook, but that won't throw me off the whole thing, will it?
No, sir. Just,
okay, well, I'm gonna do that.
Stay where you are.
Oh, I see you. There you are.
So, Rodney, while we wait on questions, let me just ask if you could expand upon the work that you've been doing with the procurement organization and advocacy to make sure out of that $2.5 billion that the county is going to spend, that there's MWBE inclusion. So I know that although there's not a formal program, because you're asking those questions, that it's being included in some of those RFPs.
On every contract that comes up, we're asking. You know, Ingrid, in the old days when I first got into politics, when the city of Houston did not have an ordinance, what you did was use transparency. You raised the issue when a major contract comes up. Now, it's a heck of a lot better when there's a policy in place, because when you just raise the issue, folks usually assume you're trying to push for company A, company B, or company C. And that's usually what will get you put in handcuffs. But when big contracts come up, we ask, look, the timing was not on accident. Leading up to the vote for the county to put that $2.5 billion on the ballot, I had 3 goals that I wanted to accomplish. One, I wanted that county flood bond package to be big enough to hit some of those low-income neighborhoods that have historically been minority neighborhoods that flooded all the time and never got any flood projects. That's Halls Bayou, Greens Bayou. You know, Greens Point Mall. You know the area. It was a hip kind of going area for young singles, and then those apartment complexes ended up being filled up by people who flood, low-income people. So we got it large enough. Then the second thing I wanted was some equity language in the ballot, on the ballot, saying that you would consider equity. Didn't define it, but equity, making sure we put some of that money in poor neighborhoods. The third one was economic development for minority and women-owned businesses. And I could yell and scream. Back then, I was the only minority, happen to have been, don't make it a partisan comment, but only Democrat on the court. So I raised the issue and had you and others come down to speak at Commissioner's Court. They say, well, why don't you all have the numbers? Why don't you know what percentage of your overall spending at the county goes to minority women-owned businesses? I think it's called B2G now. We just never had that computer program set up, which would capture the data. And you know, you get sued if you go set up a program and don't do a disparity study. So that's why you and others came down to Black Women Development Council, the Women's Council, the Hispanic Chamber. You were very forthright and you made it clear. You weren't just talking about a small business program. Small is in the eye of the beholder. Some people consider small when you're $1 billion corporation because you want to get bigger. But you came down and said, you need to do the study. You need to have a program that's legally defensible for minority and women-owned businesses. So that's why that disparity study was important. And even once they agreed to do the study, we knew it would take a year. Then we did an interlocal with the city because I had to get it voted on before the election, because that was the leverage, thinking that you all would get riled up. So look, it's going to create a lot of opportunities, but I want to say this to your members, and I said this to you in person. Some of your members, Ingrid, got to figure out how to merge. Everybody can't be the chairwoman, the chairman, the CEO. These companies have to be scalable. You know, I had my small investment banking firm. I know what it's like. I show up in Florida, go to Florida State, get some MBA students, put them in a suit, go to the presentation. I'm trying, that's scalable. I'm scaling up. Some of these minority and women-owned businesses need to merge and they can make more money. Most of the money that they make tends to be as subs, not primes. And sometimes you can get to be a prime. You can work your magic, work your politics, get to be a prime. They'll give you more than you can chew. I've been there with my business. Sometimes they'll choke you to death. And all you have to do is mess up one time. It takes a lifetime to build a reputation for a business. Just one mistake, minor mistake, and it takes a long time to get over it. So I want you to start with your members, talk about some of them merging. You know, when I sold or merged my investment banking firm with an outfit out of New York, I was no longer the chair. I didn't control it, but it was a good decision to do because we could do much larger projects than we could do when it was just me hanging on by a string. So I want to encourage your members to do that. But I think it's a golden opportunity, both from the county, metro, and the port. The city, I think, has a good program. Everybody's mad when they don't get a contract, but the overall numbers are far better than they were before we had one. And the state of Texas did a disparity study in 1993, and it's all transparent. And they put in the graduation standards. We had to. The study was started under Ann Richards. She lost. Governor Bush didn't sack the program, but they put in graduation standards, and you graduate. But look, that's a good position to be in. But I think it's going to create some real opportunities, but we got to be prepared. I'll take a couple more questions if you have some, Ingrid, and if not, we'll have to answer them a bit later. But I got about 5 more minutes with you, if that's okay, and I keep you on your agenda.
Ms. Jones.
Yes, so Commissioner Ellis, we'd like to thank you for those comments and of course for those words of wisdom. That is solely in line with the council and our strategic team and alliance committee that we actually have that focuses on creating strategic alliances between MBEs, each other, corporate members. And so spot on to hear that we are going and leading our members in the right direction. A question we have for the audience for you. The financial program that you mentioned earlier, is it only open to Harris County or the surrounding areas as well?
Just Harris County. And we did make an effort. It was $10 million, which sounds like a lot, but in terms of the devastation businesses have had, you know, we need a heck of a lot more. It pales in comparison to what the feds are going to do. And I think in that second program, they'll do even more. But look, when we opened it up, I saw an article in the Chronicle. I can't remember the numbers, Ingrid, Constance, but you know, thousands of people applied, and the money was pretty much gone in maybe about 6 hours, and we had to shut it down. Now we got to go through and see who qualifies among those. I wanted more strings on it, but there was a big push to get the money out quick, and I get that. You know, even with the feds, with the PPP program, I know that's a concern. When the numbers come out, you're gonna always know who got it. And I'm more worried about some of those people who have the small mom and pop operations. You know, the barbershops, the barbecue joints, and folks who have the taco stands, the women who are, cosmetology outfits. It's not always the investment banking firms. It may be that one person law firm. But be that said, it's good we could do something and could do it quick. And let's see where it goes. There may be an opportunity to do something else down the road. If so, I'm hoping other governmental entities come in and match as well. Or maybe we might look at what we can do to help people figure out how to qualify to get after that federal money and use some of our muscle, whatever lobbying resources we have, so that the next tranche of money coming from the feds has a earmark for minority and women-owned businesses. A lot of these folks were left by on the side of the road a long time ago when the getting was good, and we gotta help them catch up because they've been behind for 100 years.
Thank you for that. Another question we received, will the projects be done by precinct or will these projects go across precincts?
We're going to try to do them by precincts. You're talking about our 10 million.
Yes.
But obviously, if enough people from one precinct don't qualify, we'd have to figure out how to go to another one. And look, I'm guessing, precinct 1 has the medical center downtown, the one that I represent. I think all the universities, with the exception of Houston Baptist, you probably have a disproportionate number of businesses in the city of Houston, by the way. Harris County is 5 million people, and there are more people in unincorporated Harris County than there are in the city. Some of you all might live unincorporated, but the address of your business might be in the city limits. But we wanted to, in order to get the votes, get the support, you had to find some way to divvy it up. And so, it was an arbitrary number, but the decision was we're just going to try to do it so it's even between the 4 precincts, if that's possible, but at least have some spread. And a lot of it depends on who applies. And based on the amount of money we had and the number of people that applied, it won't nearly be enough. And I know there's talk about a second tranche. We're going to look at it. But look, you read in today's paper where the city's going to have major fiscal challenges, the county's going to have them as well. And as much as we want to make sure we help those businesses, you have a lot of people hurt if we end up having to go into layoffs as well. County gets this money from property values. Property values, guess what? They just went down. So whatever our houses were worth before Corona, it's going down, I'm sure. But we'll see what happens.
And the last question, Commissioner, how can we as an organization and MBE support you to get more support for the race and gender-based county program that you're initiating?
When you see something, you got to say something. It was not easy for you all on short notice to put together members to come down there to speak up, knowing that you're speaking to people that you'd be trying to get a contract from if you did county business. That's why you have an association. You think about it in the civil rights terms. That's why you have NAACP. That's why you have LULAC. That's why you have some business group. So you all can say things your individual members might be afraid to say because they're going after an engineering project. They're going after a construction project. They're trying to get legal work. Even if they've never had any, they have hope that they may get it. But that's why an association has to be willing to go and say that. So it's important to get the study. When it comes back, we still got to have the 3 votes. Hopefully we'll get 5. Make sure your members let them know about their availability to do business. Disparity study means it's like reconstructing tax returns. You got to go out and see what's the capacity in the region to do the work. Then you go and look and see to what extent they were getting work. And if there's enough capacity and they weren't getting enough work, then you can justify a race and gender-based program. I always give folks history, I guess, since I've been around so long. The city of Houston didn't have to do a disparity study when they did that program in 1985, maybe 85, 86 when we set it up. Then in Richmond, Virginia, the city of Richmond had a race and gender-based program. They got sued in the Croson case over some toilet fixtures. I remember calling a city council member in Richmond, Virginia that I met somewhere, and I said, man, just settle it. Don't shut this thing down across the whole country over your restrooms in Richmond, Virginia. Of course, they didn't want to lose that program, and they took it on the court. And then the federal court said you got to have a narrowly tailored remedy. So then imagine, I'm in the legislature in 1991. We wanted to do a statewide disparity study so we could have one of these programs. $1 million. Just back up, even that far back, almost 30 years ago. Telling somebody you want $1 million to see if your people been discriminated against. People looked at me like, are you nuts? You think we're going to spend $1 million to figure that out? Then have to explain that's what the federal courts require, because the prime contractors didn't want to open the gate and let people in. That's why they went to court to fight it. Same argument, the Bakke decision on integrated institutions of higher education. You got to have a narrowly tailored remedy. So that study is important. You got to stay on the case, make sure that your members go to the seminars. I guess they'll be online like this for Metro and the Port to show there is the capacity. And you got to set up businesses. I was talking to someone the other night and they were saying, well, with all these opportunities, what kind of business should I go into to do business at the county? Well, you got to research that. I mean, I can show you what we do. I mean, I can tell you, and sometimes I tell your members the reason I decided to try to start an investment banking firm. I was on city council in the 80s, and I didn't really like practicing law, but I had to make a living. City council paid, I don't know, $2,000 a month then. I'd left Washington as chief of staff to Congressman Mickey Leland, and I'm making a third of what I was making working for him. And so I saw all of these smart people coming in, talking about this investment banking stuff. So I said, well, I talked to a guy named Wardell Lazard out of New York. How did you get in this business? He told me he went to the University of Pacifica Law School in California. He was in a night program because he worked by day, and somebody had a management program at Lazard Frères. So he went to New York, learned how to be a banker, worked for them, and set up his own business. And I was thinking, Wardell, you don't seem that much smarter than me. You smarter, but you don't seem that much smarter. I think I'll try that. And I did. I rolled the dice, almost went broke a few times, but it worked out okay. So your members, go start businesses. Some of you on this call, you see what works. You see people come and go. Some of you ought to think about it at some point when you get ready to graduate from the Houston Minority Business Development Council. Go set up a business. Ingrid, you saw it. You were doing supply diversity at some big company. And you saw people start off small and get large, but it's because there was pressure. People were asking questions. How do minority and women-owned businesses get into this? And folks were prepared and they did it. That's the best advice I can give you. Look, I hope it helps. This is a new technology I'm learning, and I'll get better with it and figure out how to adjust the lighting. Now, some of you all look like you're in your offices, Ingrid. You need to shelter in place. Look like you're at the office instead of at home. I can't tell. But stay safe and take this coronavirus seriously. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We do appreciate and value you.
All right.
We have next Ingrid Marie Robinson. She serves as the president of the Houston Minority Supplier Development Council. She also sits on the City of Houston's Women and Minority-Owned Business Task Force, as well as the Port Houston Business Advisory Council. She received her undergraduate degree from the University of Houston and an MBA from Rice University. Ms. Ingrid Robinson.
Ms. Robinson, you're on mute.
Thank you, Marchette.
You're welcome.
Technology is new, so I was following directions to keep myself on mute and forgot to take it off. So I wanted to spend my time to talk to you a little bit about what the council's doing. So COVID-19 has truly provided an opportunity for HMSDC to reimagine our service delivery model. And that's not only happening here at a regional level, but as a national organization as well. I've seen more collaboration between the presidents and the national network to make sure that we're giving you access to the best trade seminars and information that we can across the country so that we better prepare our businesses in this unprecedented time when so much is unknown and constantly changing. So as we evaluate our service delivery model, some of our programs that you'll begin to see will happen virtually. They may continue to happen virtually even after we return to our offices and our operations. We're constantly evaluating that and figuring out how we can do things more efficiently, how we can make the best use of your time, and how do we continue to add value to you as corporate members and MBEs of HMSDC. So one of the ways in which we're doing that, I'm pleased to announce a new HMSDC Cares program that we've created regarding PPE equipment. So as we talk about returning to work, we know that there are some standards that we've seen in other countries. There's some standards that our local governments have instituted, asking us to wear masks as we go out and interact with each other, as we know COVID is spread. Not only now, what we initially thought through those people who were symptomatic, but we have asymptomatic people. And so they're asking everybody to wear masks as you go out into the world and do business or go shopping. And so with this, we partner with Global XLR, which is one of our MBEs, to provide PPE equipment at a discounted price for HMSDC members. So this will be a good opportunity for you to be able to order in small quantities that PPE that you'll need for your families, for yourselves, for your employees, as you look to go back into the workforce. And so we'll be announcing that information and providing our members only a link for that next week, tomorrow. And so it'll be about 2 weeks to get that PPE, but this will allow you not to have to try to pay exorbitant prices for the necessary PPE you have and will need for your businesses. And that is a HMSDC benefit. So we're looking at post-COVID, pre-return to work, and how do we help you to do that and make sure that you remain safe and your employees remain safe. And as you go to our corporate member sites, that you're able to be in compliance with new guidelines that many of them are instituting around health and safety on their campuses and in their work environment. So look forward to some information that you'll receive from HMSDC tomorrow. This is a member-only benefit, so we would like you not to share the link and the information. This is strictly for our members to ensure that you get the PPE you need at a reasonable discounted price. So I like to focus on what I call open economy recovery. And so there are 4 components to that. That's going to be business opportunities, resources, development, and then connections. And so I'd like to share with you a little bit about how the council plans to do that. In terms of business opportunities, we're still performing certification. So Constance is still overseeing, making sure that we're getting new certifications, recertifications, subscriber certifications, all done because we want to make sure that you're positioned to be able to capture business opportunities from our corporate members who are looking, and governmental agencies who are looking to do business with certified MBEs. We've been surveying our corporate members to understand what opportunities they currently have in their operations, as well as post or COVID-related PPE and other services. We've been sharing those instantaneously when we get them to make sure that you have that. We've been posting them in the procurement alert, and then we've been pushing them out to you guys directly based on what products or services you provide and those that we've been receiving. So Marchette and her group has been doing a fantastic job. So I want to thank Marchette and Janera for being so proactive with our corporate members to make sure that we know what those opportunities are, because we know right now your businesses are struggling, and it's important that we connect you to business opportunities. So we're actively working on that. And then we're planning future business opportunity conferences and industry forums. We have our first business opportunity conference of the year, which is going to be focused on the transportation industry on April 29th. So we invite you to join us for that and find out about some of these projects and some of the opportunities available from these transportation related projects. They will include both public or professional services, as well as trade opportunities. Some projects are being put on hold, some are unknown, but at least we want to make sure that you have the information so that you can better prepare when they do let those projects and they do begin to understand where the opportunities are. So now in terms of resources, We know that having access to relevant and timely resources is important. So we have our COVID webpage on the HMSDC website. Make sure that you visit that often because we're updating it daily with information that we're receiving from different organizations here in Houston and around the country to make sure that you know about grants as well as loans to be able to help your business through this difficult time. So there are business opportunities. There are seminars that many of our corporate members are putting on that we're making relevant to you and available to you. And they're not just for MBEs. Some seminars are related to our corporate members and those supplier diversity professionals. And how do you continue to be relevant during this time where industries are cutting back, where industry isn't sure where it's going? How are you effective advocates as corporate members? So the information that's contained on our COVID site is not just for MBEs, but contains information for our corporate members as well. And then we're about to launch our CRM. We've been working on this for a long time, but we wanted to make sure that we had a product that we could be proud of, that we would be able to roll out to you to allow you to be able to manage your own profiles, be able to search for MBEs if you're a corporate member, be able to search for other MBEs to support MBE to MBE. If you are MBE looking to partner, as Rodney talked about, and form strategic alliances, you'll be able to do that as well. And then we'll be able to have business matchmaking sessions and some other cool features that are coming soon. So we're looking at rolling that out in June when we anticipate returning back to our offices. And then in terms of development, we're taking social distancing and safety into consideration, and it's very important to us that we remain safe and that you remain safe. But we are working on programs that'll better position you to support you and the sustainability of your business post-COVID. So we're looking at our CEO Conversations program, our MBE Leadership Academy, being able to roll that out in the second half of this year, as well as launching the Pathways to Excellence revamp that we've been working on, which is a supplier self-assessment that'll allow you to understand the requirements that corporations and governmental entities, even more now than before, will be looking and screening suppliers against. Understand where your gaps are, and then we'll provide you with access to the resources to be able to fill those gaps. So it's important that you use this time to focus on the development of your business. And as you relook at your business post-COVID, how do you best position yourself? And so we are being and preparing to make sure you have the resources that you need to be able to do that. So I think once you see the model, you'll see that it's all online. You're able to take the courses, you're able to track your performance, you're able to update the information. And so I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be a real value add for our members. And then we're still going to be focusing on hosting our scholarship fundraiser, which is our annual golf tournament. That typically happens in May. We have moved the golf tournament to October, so it will take place on October 6th. But we're still planning to have it, as we know how important business executive scholarships are. And so we still want to continue to raise money for our executive scholarships so that we can award scholarships to MBEs who may be looking at their business and looking at this as an opportunity to pivot and need particular training or certifications in order to make that pivot. So we want to make sure that we make those funds available for executive scholarships to our members. And then finally, when we talk about connections, so I've already mentioned that the golf tournament has been moved to October 6th. But we are still planning to have Expo in November of this year. It may not look the same, but I guarantee you the connections will be there, the energy will be there, and the opportunities will be there. Our corporate members have been great at making sure that they let us know that they're still committed to the organization, still committed to doing business with you, and still committed to Expo. So Expo will take place this year. It just may look a little bit differently, and that will take place November 18th and 19th. And then finally, our media room. We've been looking at series and lead conversations as part of our strategic plan that we unveiled at our annual meeting. So this is the first series of our lead conversations. We'll be hosting additional lead conversations on all sorts of topics, including coping with COVID. How do you deal mind, body, and soul for you and your employees? We're looking at how do you stay relevant to the market and using Facebook and other social media tools to reach new customers. to elevate your brand and to gain new access to new markets. So you'll be seeing more LEAD conversations coming out. So we invite you to join all of those. We're looking at one that's going to be talking about the pre-opening or the reopening of our economy. How does that happen? And how do we better position ourselves? So that's just a few of the things that the council is doing, and we want to communicate that to you, let you know that our office is up, working, running, and working on your behalf. How we help you through this crisis is more important to us than anything else that we're doing. So we are beginning to pivot ourselves to look at, as we reopen the economy and we look at our business markets differently, how do we prepare you with the resources to be able to do that? So thank you for your time, and thank you, Marquette.
Ms. Marshall, you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson. We do appreciate you and value you for all that you do. As you guys can see, the Houston Minority Supplier Development Council is busy. Even though we're working remotely, we are yet servicing our members' needs. And so we're here for you during this time. So please know that. Please continue to call and email us just as you have, and we'll continue to work feverishly on your behalf. Next, we have with us Mr. Tim Jeffcoat. He is the Deputy Director for the United States Small Business Administration in Houston, in their district office in Houston. He oversees the delivery of SBA programs and services in the 32 county district. He holds an MBA from Auburn University and 2 undergraduate degrees, one in marketing and the other in commercial music. Mr. Tim Jeffcoat.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning. I guess it still is 9:43. It feels like afternoon. We've been very busy at the SBA trying to help small businesses. You've probably heard of the PPP loans, and you maybe have also heard of economic injury disaster loans. So I'll tell you a little bit about those. Most importantly right now is that they are depleted. Congress, as you probably know, is working hard to try to come up with some new funding for PPP and economic injury disaster loans. So both are currently closed to new applications, but I am hopeful that they will be reopened in the coming days. Congress, the House rather, is back in today deliberating on new funding for PPP, so it could be as early as today. So stay tuned for that. Here are the important things for you to know. PPP, I'm going to look at some screens that are up here, so pardon me when my eyes wander around. Texas, you probably have heard, well, across the nation, there have been $349 billion worth of PPP loans expended, almost 2 million in Texas. I don't have just Houston. About $28.5 million worth of PPP loans for about 135,000 businesses. I think what's really important to people here is to also know that 74% of those loans were for very small businesses. We have a metric that we use to determine what size of businesses are getting the support, and we can tell you that 74% are in that very small category. So that's good news. We also have the economic injury disaster loans. That's the one that when you apply for it, as long as you request it, you can get an advance of up to $10,000 to help you in a fairly quick period. We can tell you that for Texas, there have been, give me a quick second, 63,815 of those advances for $287 million occur so far. So the point in telling you all those numbers is that these programs have been very active and they've been pushing a lot of money into the hands of small business. You may not have gotten it. Here's what you want to do. If you think you're going to pursue the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program loans, first and foremost, know that those are focused on payroll. And payroll is going to be defined by the IRS as those people for whom you do W-2s. 1099s are not employees. So if you have employees and you have W-2s and you have not applied for PPP, that may be a very good choice. That's up to $10 million over 2 years at 1% interest. It can be 100% forgiven. Here's the bottom line. I'll use an example. If you have 10 employees and you average paying them $1,000 a month, You would get your PPP loan, and the 8 weeks following them dispersing that loan to you, we're looking for you to have 10 employees at $1,000 a month. As long as you do that, and that amount of money comprises at least 75% of what you're spending, then it will be forgiven. You don't have to pay it. The SBA is going to pay it for you. So that's the PPP. It also will cover your rent. It'll cover mortgage interest, and it'll cover utilities, but that's all it covers. So if you're a business that has lots of other operating expenses, then PPP may not be perfect for you. It'll help you with payroll, but it may not help you, say you're a manufacturer, it may not help you with the supplies for manufacturing, with the maintenance contracts for keeping your machinery maintained, all those sorts of things. So the EIDL loan, or Economic Injury Disaster Loan, let me stop, back to PPP. You will be getting that loan directly from a bank. That doesn't come from the SBA. So those are the banks that work with the SBA all the time to provide loans to small businesses. A list of those can be found on my website, and it also shows you if they are willing to accept brand new customers. So you can go to my website, which is sba.gov/tx/Houston, or if you just Google SBA Houston, we should be the first hit. And under Corona/COVID resources, you'll find a lender list. It shows you all of our lenders, as well as those that are currently accepting brand new customers, the ones that they don't have a current banking relationship with. EIDL loans are intended for those that need a wider variety of funding, not just payroll, but also for your operating expenses. It's up to $2 million, can be for up to 30 years to make it a cheap loan so far as the payments, 3 3/4% interest. So once those come back available, you can certainly pursue those. You can get up to $10,000 advance to you when you apply for that, and that advance is basically $1,000 per employee. So that will be on the SBA website. Listen to the news. As soon as there's new funding for PPP and EIDL, then for PPP, go to the lender of your choice. For EIDL, you can go to the SBA website and you can apply for those loans. And hopefully you will be able to get those. My office has been very aggressively engaged in supporting small businesses and educating small businesses here, as well as the lending community. We started doing it in the middle of March, and as of yesterday, we'd done 142 webinars and reached probably close to 25,000 businesses with those webinars, helping them get ready for PPP and for economic injury disaster loan. The things that you need if you're going to pursue PPP is you need your good payroll records. The lender is going to need to confirm your calculations on what your average monthly payroll was for the last year. For EIDL, you need to know what your revenues were for the last year, what your operating costs were for the last year, and how many employees you have. But that's all the information that you need, other than the basic demographic information of who you are, who owns your business, that kind of thing, your EIN number. That's the only information that you need in order to get those applications done and get them into the system. We are hearing from Congress that it may be $250 billion for PPP, and it will be something less, it looks like, for EIDL funding specifically for COVID. One of the questions I'm getting now is, when's the third round of financing going to be when this one is done? Well, that I know of, there won't be a third round. Congress is only talking about a second round. So if it looks like something that would be important to you, then I would urge you to get ready, find the lender of your choice for PPP, go ahead and start working on an application. If you're going to pursue EIDL, then go ahead and get your annual revenues, your operating costs, and your headcount ready. And as soon as those are open, I urge you to get your applications in. In the meantime, again, go to my website. You can get that list of lenders. You can also find out our webinar schedule right now. We're just doing one a day for the public at 9 o'clock in the morning, but we've been doing as many as 8 a day in the middle of PPP and EIDL funding rounds. That's mainly what I came to talk about. I hope that I didn't use up too much time. Back to you, Marchette, and you're muted.
Okay, me and this mute button, we are having a time today. But thank you so much, Tim. No, you did not use up too much time. The information was truly invaluable, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions at the end of this. So stay tuned. Our next presenter is Mr. Richard Gianni. He has over 44 years of retail financial services experience. He is the Senior Executive Vice President in charge of microlending for L.E.A.D Fund. He leads efforts and implements programs to enhance L.E.A.D Fund's presence throughout its 13-state footprint. Richard Gianni.
Thank you very much, Marchette. Hopefully my mute button is working and it is now unmuted. So, and I want to thank Clifton also for all of his work in walking me through the setup of this yesterday. Ingrid, thank you as well for you and your team leading this COVID-19 Resources Town Hall. I think everybody listening, all of the speakers that have presented would all be in uniformity in understanding the gravity of the circumstances that we all find ourselves in, not only as a region, as a state, but also at a national level. As I sit here and as I've thought about the comments that I've heard, and I think about the incredible work that's being done by so many as we move forward and navigate through this disaster, the one thing that keeps coming back into my mind for the small businesses that are listening is being prepared. The commissioner talked about kind of that self-resilience, that sense of inward focus and being ready to accept the challenges that lie before us. You know, as I heard Director Jeffcoat talk about the programs in PPP, he mentioned obviously the documentation that's required. Those are areas that small businesses can be prepared. And then as I think about the efforts that CDFIs are doing, and one thing that we're very excited about is that what we're hearing in the second round of funding, that there is going to be about a $60 billion carve out for small community banks and CDFIs as well to provide additional capital. What I wanted to talk a little bit about this morning is what L.E.A.D Fund as a CDFI is doing. We have been leaning into this for over a month. We have been doing it remotely as well, as we too are adhering to the social distancing rules and requirements that have been set out for us to maintain personal safety. And I have to say, before I go into anything else, how proud I am of our team in conducting business in a way that we just certainly weren't engineered to do. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about what we are focusing on. And I want to begin that conversation with PPP. As a CDFI, unlike a bank, we don't have deposits resident to be able to deploy under that program. So our team has done a remarkable job in forging out partnerships with funders like Goldman Sachs, working in conjunction with the governor's office. And last week, that resulted in a rollout of a $25 million funding package to allow L.E.A.D Fund to deploy and take applications for deployment for PPP loans across the state of Texas. We're also working with a funding credit union source, Credit Human, to deploy about an additional $7 million in PPP, $5 million in San Antonio, $2 million in the city of New Orleans. So where we are with regards to that, as you heard Director Jeffcoat talk about the fact that PPP has, the funds have run out, we are still working with all of our applicants to complete that business packaging process that you heard Tim discuss. It is going to be so important for business owners listening to this webinar to be prepared so that when their lender, because we're not the only one that's doing that, when they hear from their lender regarding their application, to have the information that Tim referenced available. That's a critical part of this to complete the packaging, which then results in that file moving forward to our respective underwriting teams for final approval. That is the step that is necessary before we connect with the SBA, to, and I'm getting messages about my video not being on. Clifton, I'm connecting on the camera and it says now turn camera on. And when I do that, do you guys see me?
No, we're not seeing your broadcast,
Okay.
so you can continue.
Okay. So that is a critical step. And so the best thing that small business owners can do to help themselves is to be ready when you get that call from your lender, your bank or LIFT fund. In particular, in Houston, we have $5 million worth of PPP loans that we will be deploying within the city of Houston. And so as we are working through those files, the better prepared our small business applicants are, the faster we can move them into the queue and then get them through the underwriting process. So just because those funds have run out, do not think for a moment that your lenders out there are not working on this fast and furiously. There is every reason to believe that this funding will be approved. In addition to PPP loans, as a CDFI in addressing this, we have been working with various municipalities across the state of Texas on rolling out with funding packages to support that, our COVID-19 relief loan. And basically it is a loan that goes up to $50,000 where we have buy down funding available. It's available as low as 0% interest. In many of the smaller communities that we're working through this process with, we've actually lowered the loan amount to $25,000. Our goal as a CDFI is to focus on the smallest businesses, the most vulnerable businesses in our community that we do not want to have not had that opportunity to secure capital. Remember, PPP focuses on payroll. So our COVID-19 relief product is designed to take a look at other capital needs that small businesses are going to have in order to stabilize their businesses as they are allowed to reopen. So it's a twofold strategy. Obviously, the EIDL loan is designed to cooperate and work in conjunction with the PPP loan for those very reasons. And the other thing I want to touch on also, as we think about the environment that we find ourselves in, and I thoroughly appreciated the fact that the commissioner touched on this as well. This is a region that still hasn't recovered from our last disaster, known as Harvey, and the resulting housing shortages that we have in the affordable housing sector, et cetera. LIFT Fund is still very focused on that as well. We are working under a consortium ecosystem called Ascent Houston, which was funded through a generous grant by JP Morgan Chase Foundation to provide an ecosystem that is, our initial focus will be working with minority and women-owned construction firms. We launched that first cohort in January with 19 extraordinary contractors that will be working closely, in this case, with the city as work is able to move forward with housing projects. We are also working to finalize funding projects for that particular cohort of contractors. So we're looking at multiple avenues in terms of issues that are critical to our community here through our Houston office and our Houston team as well. And so I'm going to stop there and pause and see, Marchette, what questions may be out there.
Good timing. Thank you so much. We are definitely going to go into our Q&A session. I first want to thank all of our presenters for the wealth of knowledge that you brought to this town hall meeting. I'm sure all of our viewing and listening audience have questions that they want to ask, and so we're going to bring back Constance Jones so that she can start to relay some of those questions to our presenters. Constance?
Thank you, Marchette. This first question goes to Tim Jeffcoat. The EIDL, and it's regarding the EIDL loan. If I got a grant and not a loan, how do I work on paying back the advancement?
The advance does not have to be repaid. It is a gift.
Okay. And same for you, Tim. It's real. You're real popular right now. What do I need to prove I use the grant money?
You don't. The grant money is for you to use as you see fit for your business. The idea is that it's going to be used to support your employees, to support your operating expenses, but otherwise that grant money as part of the EIDL is for you to use in whatever way is best for your business.
Once advancement has been distributed, how long does it take to know the status of the loan application? And this is for EIDL.
Yeah, so if you applied for EIDL, then two things are going to happen. First, make sure you have an application number. If you have an application number that starts with a 2, that means you have a fairly old application. And if you haven't heard something, you're going to hear it very soon because you have one of the earliest applications. If it starts with a 3, that means you use the streamlined process that also allowed you to request in advance. So if you have a loan, rather an application number, that means you're in the system and you will be contacted. If you want status, you can contact the disaster customer service at their toll-free number or at their email address, but I can tell you what you're going to get is a response that says you are in process. So there's really no point in you doing that. The first two things that will happen that are really matter to you after you have submitted the application and got that application number is that your advance will show up in your bank account. We don't tell you we did it. I don't know why, but we don't. So look at your bank accounts, and if you had something show up from US Treasury, that's us. And it will be for up to $10,000. Again, that's calculated as $1,000 per employee. At some point, you will get contacted by a loan person at the SBA. And when they do, they will say, okay, now I'm ready to work with you, and click this link and go create this account. And then you're going to, through this new portal, you're going to have the ability then to securely communicate with your loan officer and continue to check on the status of your loan. Once your loan is approved, then you'll be able to check on your balances, and you'll be able to do payments or manage future disbursements and all those kinds of things. So just in summary, the two things that will happen once you submit an application and get an application number is the money will show up in your account for the advance. You got to look for it. And then we will contact you. And at that point, we'll establish a way that you can communicate with the disaster folks. Unfortunately, the only thing to do in the meantime is wait.
And for the SBA loan programs, both PPP and EIDL, if I own two companies with different EINs, can I apply for two separate loans, or does the SBA consider it one company and therefore only one loan application?
Yeah, so if you have two EINs, that usually would be two separate applications. So I don't think we are going to get worried about that.
Okay. If I don't remember if I selected the $10,000 grant, what should I do?
If you didn't, okay, so if you have a 3-3, that means you have the, on your application number, that means that you have the opportunity to choose it. I hope that you did, because if you did, you would have also told us your bank account name, your routing symbol, and your account number. Usually that's going to stick in your memory because most people don't know those offhand and you have to go look them up. If you really don't remember entering that, then probably you didn't request one. The right thing to do, I think, is to just wait until we contact you, and then you can say at that time that you didn't request in advance. The other thing you could do is you could go submit another application. I don't think that would mess anything up, but I don't know for certain. So as I say, the best thing is to wait for us to contact you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, this question is for you. How do people get engaged in the Ascend program?
So we will be taking a look. We've deferred our next cohort class from July. We haven't set a second cohort recruitment date yet. So once that happens, we'll be working through our partners that are part of the Ascend program, which on the education side is Houston Community College, the Bridge Path, the City of Houston's OBO department. They are also our market partner in this case, the Kingdom Builder Center. So we will have a way of reaching out to the community, into the communities that we want to recruit contractors out of to do that. But right now, because of everything that's going on with the COVID issue, that second class recruitment is deferred just a little bit longer.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Ms. Robinson, the question for you is, will subscribers be able to access the information that we receive in the CRM?
They should. As a subscriber, you'll be registered into our system just as any of our other MBE. Clark, is there any additional information you can add to that since you've been working with them directly on the import of the data?
Yes, subscribers will have a dedicated view similar to that of MBEs and corporates. And we will determine as a final overview what access to specific information those levels will be granted. But yes, subscribers will have access as every other local member.
Tim, this last question is for you, and it's regarding the second round of the monies for the programs that you mentioned. If I've not applied as of this point, should I still apply because there's a potential opportunity for me to receive funds, or should I just look for other resources?
I'd recommend doing both. I think there's absolutely, you absolutely want to apply if you need the money. And you can always contact us and maybe we can help you out. But if you want to pursue PPP, I think right now you need to get with the lender of your choice. And again, that lender list is at my website, and get an application in their hands. You may still have some work to do with it once the PPP money gets refunded, assuming it does get refunded. But better to start it now and be 9/10 of the way there. EIDL, same thing, get your data ready. And then when EIDL comes back online, you'll be able to submit that application. But I would also look at other alternatives, depending on where you're located, et cetera. You know, restaurants, there are some grant programs available through the Texas Restaurant Association. If you're in the arts, there are grants available through Allied Arts. There are some economic development corporations that are doing grants for people in their areas, so you should check which EDC's area you are in. There are some low-cost loans. Generally, they're only for they're about 6 months, $25,000, $35,000, something like that, at low interest rates. Some are longer, like Richard's, and you should absolutely avail yourself of those as well. We want you to survive. We want you to not just survive. We want you to come out of this strong and able to prosper. So seeking those resources will be very important for you, I think. Depending on the industry you're in, this isn't going to go away quickly. We're going to start ramping back into our business. I am completely optimistic that we are going to be a very strong economy a year from now, but it may be a year from now before that happens. So the next several months are probably going to be tough. So I would absolutely encourage you. I do want to mention that, you know, without going long here, the Small Business Development Centers and the SCORE organization in particular are organizations that I see a lot of interesting webinars that are free. So SCORE is presenting one, I think today, on how to make sure you succeed and how to move your business online while COVID is going on. Those are very important. SBDC has been doing specific webinars. A lot of people don't know about the IRS tax credits. So you can get tax credits on your payroll at the end of this year when you do your 2021 taxes that could make a significant difference in your bottom line. And so we've worked with SBDC to make sure that they have a webinar specifically on that. They did it yesterday, and I think they're doing it again tomorrow, and all kinds of topics. So while we're at home, many of us, and we're waiting for our businesses to open, or we are open, but we don't have much going on, you can participate in these and you can learn all kinds of things that can change the game for your business. And I encourage you to do all of the above.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim, someone just asked if you could repeat your web address.
Yes, www.sba, as in Small Business Administration, .gov. That's the main SBA site. But if you add a /TX/Houston, that takes you straight to my webpage. There's a section in the middle called Business Resources. If you look on the left of that side, there'll be one called Corona/COVID. And in there is some pertinent information. Also, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a big box that says receive updates or something like that. Click that. That can put you on our mailing list. You will be there with about another 50,000 businesses in the area. And every time we do anything, we send it to that mailing list so that you are aware of it. And we're doing that right now for a lot of our partners' activities as well.
Thank you so much. And now for our closing remarks, I think, Constance, do we have any more questions?
No, thank you so much, Marchette.
Absolutely.
Before we
So
go,
for our closing remarks, I think we're now going to have Ingrid Robinson and then our chairman, Mr. Archie Meyer.
hi. So I just wanted to share with you some information that I've received from Commissioner Ellis that he wanted me to share. He's been able to get some statistics on the Harris County loan program. So although it was only up less than 24 hours, over 7,000 companies applied. 6,500 applications, though, were denied based on their timestamp of when they applied. Not exactly sure what that means. Maybe it came after they closed the officially closed the portal within that 24-hour period. 56% of the applicants reported having 1 to 5 employees. 19% of the applicants reported having 6 to 10 employees. And out of the 500 applications that met the eligibility criteria and uploaded documents, 100 applications have been reviewed, but no loans have been processed to date. So none of the $10 million have been dispersed, but 100 have been reviewed, and they are only looking at about 500 applications at this point that met their criteria. So I guess reviewing those and funding, and based on the results of that and how much money is left, they may reopen it. That's it.
All right, we'll go over to Mr. Archie for the closing remarks.
I thought Archie was giving closing remarks, or Ingrid?
I am, and I apologize, I was on mute. So
Okay.
thank you for stepping in there, Marchette.
Absolutely.
Everyone, thank you all for participating in this HMSDC Town Hall. If you would, please take a few moments after this event to fill out a short event evaluation. You'll receive that immediately after this call, and let us know how you like today's session. You know, we hope you enjoyed it and plan to join us for some of our upcoming programs. We have a Transportation Business Opportunity Conference with United, Metro, and Texas Department of Transportation that's scheduled for April 29th. Of course, lunch with our illustrious president for MBEs on April 24th. We have the opening the economy and what's next on May 13th. And then we have a Chief Procurement Officer, or as we call it, CPO Power Panel that's coming up on May 18th. You know, in closing, you know, we certainly believe in our MBEs and your ability to be resilient and transformative always, but especially past COVID-19. You know, this is an opportunity to demonstrate the traits we often brag about with our MBEs and what they bring to the table, namely the ability to be agile, innovative, and adaptive to changing environments. And certainly these traits are what you will need to help you rebound and make your customers rely on you. As Rudy Tomjanovich said, and you know, I had the pleasure of being in Houston during this particular time. You know, Rudy was former head coach of the Houston Rockets, and he said when the Houston Rockets won their 1995 championship, which is certainly not foreseen, that never underestimate the heart of a champion. And so every day we recognize it is you and our corporate advocates, and certainly our MBEs are the real champions of Houston business. And I think we have a slide that we'll share with everybody concerning those certainly very appropriate words for that particular time in Houston's history. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you and joining you for our future events.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We do appreciate you.
Thanks, Archie.